This is the ATI Podcast.
Thank you for calling Spotify Podcast Help and Support. This is Ralph. How may I assist you today?
Yeah, my name is Grace, and I'm calling in because I wanted to complain about this show you got on your hosting service that I've been hearing. It's full of the devil, is what I have to say about it.
Okay, Grace. Well, I definitely understand and hear your concerns. You're saying that the show has a lot of talk about the devil. Could you elaborate more on that for me?
Well, these gentlemen, they call themselves the ATI Podcast, and they've got this show, this Brandon guy with his bits about his little tiny D&Ds and his minis that he probably shoves them up his ass, to be honest with you. But, you know, he's got this just god-awful, this little baby, it's like a baby's head on a shark body, and it's got nipples, and it's lactating, and it's going to turn the children gay.
Well, ma'am, I definitely understand your concern there,
Not only is it going to turn my kids gay, but it's going to turn my grandkids gay and their grandkids gay. And this is just going to keep going on because everything on the internet lives forever. And I just can't have the kids being turned gay.
Well, I understand that, ma'am. Unfortunately, there is a creative freedom for people, podcasters, so we can't really control the content that's put out as long as they're not breaking any laws or rules, but I definitely hear your concern.
They're breaking the law, I can tell you that. They're breaking God's law. It ain't right. It ain't natural. Everything that I see, and this fella, he calls himself Whole Boy sometimes, and he makes a mockery of Christ, and he even dresses up like him in ladies' garments, and it makes me question my own sexual interests, and I'll be goddamned if I'll have my own sexual interests questioned in my life.
Well, that's understandable, ma'am. That's definitely understandable. I went ahead and made notes about the baby-headed shark with the nipples and all the holes and the hells and the demons and goblins, and I'll definitely make sure I get those to my superiors, and we'll try to get your issue taken care of. We'll investigate this matter further.
And you make sure you tell your superiors that this boy is just a deviant from Aleister Crowley's nutsack, and he himself needs to be taken out, tarred and feathered, like we used to in the old days to solve our problems. He needs to learn, he needs the power of God, the fear of God installed in him, because everything he's doing is sacrilegious, and it's not right, it's not natural, and he's turning everybody gay.
All right, so I went ahead and added we need to crucify him to the notes, so that's no problem. Yeah, like I said, I'll get this straight to our superiors, and we'll do our best to get your issue taken care of, and we'll get back with you.
Oh, God bless you, young man. You're just a beacon of hope and pray, and I'll be praying for you tonight. I'm sure you have to deal with people like this all the time, and oh, God bless you. You're going to be in my prayers tonight.
Well, I appreciate that, ma'am.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the ATI Podcast. We've got some special material ahead for you here. We've got episode 100 in the works. We've got Barrett here and Josh as usual. But this is not Brian Jones. This is my brother, Aaron Lewis, not the famed lead singer of Sting.
Almost as good.
Yeah, almost as good.
Yeah.
He didn't kill quite as many coyotes.
Just left, right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
there you go. So, a part of like the surprise that we had planned for this evening with Brian Jones was that Aaron, my brother, was going to be on the show as well, because that's how I became friends with Brian, was because Aaron and Brian were friends first. They're in the same class in school and stuff, and that's how we this whole thing started to begin with. And we referred to that in our first episode with Brian in the first season. One of our early guests too. I think he was on episode 10.
Yeah, it was early.
Correct.
It was one of the earlier ones. Yeah.
Here we are 90 episodes earlier, and Brian was to come back. Brian had some technical difficulties with his travel this evening, and therefore he's not even getting off whatever flight he had scheduled until like 10 p.m. our time. So we're in the central time zone. It's 8 now, so things aren't working out at this very moment for him to do this live stream at this minute. We do have plans to do something with Brian still yet in contribution, but it's just that's why you're not seeing him right now.
He'll be back.
Yeah, we're gonna make the best of what time we got here right now, and I was actually pretty excited to actually have Aaron on the podcast because we haven't had him on here previously, so this is the first time for Aaron as well.
Yeah, and I missed him on Thanksgiving, so it's good to see.
Yeah, Thanksgiving surprise.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. We had
I
a good
know,
time.
Aaron.
Good.
We did.
Good.
We sure did. I know that you listen to the show as a fan, and I know you've even made comments to me randomly of things that you've listened to and liked. And Josh and I were having a conversation before we actually started recording. You hopped on the call about the fact that it would be kind of actually cool to pick from your perspective, because I obviously haven't been on yet, so you've been listening as a fan, and some things maybe that you've enjoyed, or conversations in particular, or something that you really took away from the podcast so far.
It's really interesting hearing the different perspectives of different types of entertainers and or producers that you've had on. Notably, some of the film workers that you've had on that kind of give a better insight on what it takes to really make, and the work that goes into even just the finer details of scenes that you could just overlook all day, but those were intentionally done.
Right.
Also, hearing from everybody on this call right now has been in a band or is in a band or plans on continuing to play music. Hearing kind of from the other side of the door, from a lot of DIY bands that are basically putting their foot forward to make momentum, or at least produce everything from their own pockets and themselves in general. So I don't know. It's just a huge insight, more or less,
Right.
outside of just general banter of favorite films and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
also, there's so many knowledge nuggets that come from all these episodes anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. Even as stupid as we can be sometimes in the silly conversations we can get into, we always accidentally find something new or interesting with each episode, I feel like.
Yeah, I've learned a ton over the last 2 years that we've even been doing this, you know what I mean?
Right.
And met some really awesome people, so it's been such a pleasure.
Yeah. I know, back in the day when we were doing this too, you probably caught some of that, 12, 13, I guess it's almost 14 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know the show's quite different than what it used to be. I think it would be kind of funny to hear, whenever I was telling you, when we were going to do this show again, what you thought the show might be versus how it ultimately ended up being. Were your expectations the same?
I enjoy, and obviously I'm not taking any digs at any prior episodes and all that stuff, but
Right.
I think that it came together a lot more, and there's a sense of directive in conversation that seems a little bit easier to keep up with, as far as just listening and being on the same page. And yeah, so I feel like I think a general sense of direction was a really big step up since you guys have been back, and makes for an easier listen. And obviously everybody has their own opinions and all that stuff, but and it's not even censoring yourselves, but just having a more general idea and or opinion, instead of you can listen. There's a lot of podcasts that I'll try to listen to, and then it just gets on these tangents of personal opinion, and then it almost becomes an argument. Like
Yeah.
whole thing, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, that's not why I popped on this bulletin.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we struggled with this early on. Was like we were like very concerned with like having things like factually accurate from like news reports
Right.
and having sources detailed and that sort of thing. Where I think we like
Right.
kind of started to walk away from that. Not to say like we're not trying to talk about factual things, but like we do our current event segment and we try to talk about what's happening in the world and like how it's affecting us or what our opinions of the situations are, just because these are like water cooler conversations that everybody has at work, right?
Right.
And sometimes when people have those conversations, they're not like as informed as they probably should be to have a more well-rounded opinion. So the intent was always to provide more facts,
Educate people.
If you're going to have those conversations with the coworker at work at the water cooler or drunk uncle at the holiday giving, event that's taking place at the time. So I think like we've definitely started to like lean a little bit toward that purpose rather than try to be like news.
Right.
Because whenever you're producing a show like we do and we put out an episode once a week, it's like how can you possibly even cover all the news that took place in a week as well?
It's crazy,
especially like right now.
The amount that comes in, like social media especially is a huge tool for that. And so you have instant access to everything almost in real time. So it's hard to keep up,
Yeah.
I mean, I will say like once like something big is going on, like there's some big like controversial topic, regardless of how important it is or isn't. I will hop on Twitter and be like hashtag this thing, and I will just keep refreshing it. And within 5 minutes, I will know pretty much everything that's happening, at least as far as everybody knows in the world at that time.
At least enough to give a educated opinion, or try to be the consensus of whatever is actually happening.
Yeah,
right.
And and people got to weed through the headline grabs as well. Like that's such a huge issue in general.
Yeah. Everything's drive towards clicks, and you have to be able to get clicks, and people do clickbaity things. I mean, news organizations have been doing it forever. The sensationalism in newspapers that dates back hundreds of years.
Hook, line, and sinker on the headlines, baby.
Yeah. That goes on in the podcast world too. Specifically, I know like we were fans, Aaron, when we were kids. I know for sure, like Conan the Wrestler and Disco Inferno, WCW. They got their own podcast. Like they're one of my top 3 podcast listens in general because I feel like they were definitely one of my inspirations to actually come and do a podcast again. Because these guys, they're friends. They've been friends for decades. Fits the bill here, right? And they talk about everything that they have an interest in. And we used to do that. And we knew we could do a more mature version of that. So, but what I like about them is that they will talk about controversial topics. And I feel like we try to do that sometimes. Sometimes, the conversation doesn't always get there, but we like to play devil's advocate sometimes. Sometimes I will take an opinion on the show, like whenever in the first season when we did our ATI podcast for president, episode 41, we did a thing about the death penalty.
Yeah.
And I do have some like very specific opinions about the death penalty, but I kind of leaned a little bit harder in a direction that maybe isn't like 100% my opinion, just so that everybody could hear everything from everybody, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes you got to play devil's advocate. Yeah. So regardless,
nobody wants to hear a room full of people like agreeing with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's debatable. Like, it doesn't
that's fair.
Number,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's goddamn, you're a fucking martyr to have even 10% of a different opinion than other people in a lot of social settings.
Personally, I find a trend in those, or in that, on that subject, and it's usually people that don't have, or that are not very knowledgeable of certain situations.
100%.
Just repeat some, rhetoric that's been used over and over and over again, just so they can see where everybody else stands, so they can immediately make a judgment on character based on something that doesn't fucking matter. Like,
absolutely.
So,
yeah. Right. Well, it's a funny example, and I might have brought this up whenever you were home for Thanksgiving or popped in on that surprise visit a couple weeks ago. And sometimes I like to, like, whenever I meet new people, intentionally have a controversial conversation just to see where somebody's at.
Or how they react to it.
Definitely how they react to it's a huge part of it. And it goes back to a lot of things like memories that we were sharing at the party, which we'll get into some of that today. But it's like, I don't know, I just kind of like enjoy watching people squirm sometimes. It's kind of, I have that in me a little bit, So we were
sort of thing, or sadist,
I guess so. Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, like I'm a guy that has to like people are always throwing shit at me in like my day job constantly, and I'm always having to like think on my feet in the most ridiculous situations, and like I think I have pretty good poise, but like I don't know if it's like the little shit in me. Yeah.
I get it.
That I'm like I'm gonna be that guy now,
Yeah.
But in the spring, I went to go check out Mondo Franco's short that he had, X Massacre, because they were debuting it at a short film festival for St. Louis area filmmakers at the Arcade Cinema, which is the micro cinema right next door to the Heavy Anchor. So you're like, if you haven't been there, you're probably familiar at least where it's at. And so like if you go out in the back of the Heavy Anchor, there's like a little patio area like where you can smoke and stuff. And then off to the side, there's a little gravel lot. And that's actually technically Arcaden's outdoor screening area where they would actually hold outdoor screenings like in the summertime and stuff. Yeah, they'll do like little flea markets and things. Like they did like an oddities thing there once. They did like an art exhibit thing there once. It's really cool. Like,
yeah, they're really great people. And I really like their approach to how they're doing it too. Yeah. So it's a really cool spot.
Yeah, there's a lot of like synergy between them and the Heavy Anchor. They do a lot of stuff in juncture with one another. But for this event specifically, it was their first like big indoor screening. And so like they have a capacity there, and I pull up and the place is like busy, jam-packed, and I'm like, oh shit, all these people that made these movies in this area brought everybody that they knew or who they could get to come out to this thing. Like I didn't even think I was going to get in, and it was kind of shoulder to shoulder, but I got in. And one of the early shorts that I watched was this guy doing a H.P. Lovecraft story. He was kind of doing a couple different stories, but there was a main story of H.P. Lovecraft that he was following a little bit. Afterward, I happened to see the guy. He was out like mingling with the people, like trying to get their opinions of his short. I was up at the bar talking to Mondo, and Tony Michael, friend of the show, of course, was there too. He had met up with me at some point. We were getting some drinks, and this kid came up to me and said, oh, hey, did you watch my short? I'm like, yeah, actually, you had the H.P. Lovecraft one, because he like starred in it, also directed it, edited. I mean, he did like everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I'm pretty familiar with H.P. Lovecraft work. I said, I haven't touched on any of it like in the last 15 years, but like I was pretty heavy into it about 15, 16 years ago. I said, and I think you like did the material justice in the sense, but how do you feel about all the racism? And he was like, and the people that own the Arcade were at the bar watching.
We didn't do that.
Yeah. And like I saw that my audience was the owners of the Arcade Cinema. Mondo, I think, might have been in the background. Logan Cole might have been in the background. Tony on my side. Tony about fucking pissed himself. He started laughing so fucking hard. He had to like dip out. The kid was just like,
Tony doesn't have a lot of restraint when it comes to that either. So.
Nah. No, Tony was little mini Sal Mineo. He was laughing his ass off, man. It was hilarious.
That's great.
But I mean, the kid composed himself and answered, pretty decently, and I was like, I get it, it was the times and that sort of thing. So he wasn't doing anything out of character for anybody in his status at the time, like a middle class white guy, right? I kind of say that to say this, it is kind of important sometimes to like check people and see where they stand. If you're not having those difficult conversations, like you can't grow, I don't think, and you can't, it's kind of like that sharpened by iron sort of mindset. But yeah, a lot of what we used to do in the past, it was probably a little bit even more controversial at that at times,
I mean, I've just re-listening to some of it. I've probably said a few controversial things probably in just 10 minutes of listening to what I listened to. So yeah.
It's a whole other animal now. So.
Yeah, for sure. Like a lot of like what we were talking about at that time was like the formation and rise of ISIS in Syria, and kind of like the big news things. Like our big enemy was the Tea Party at the time. Or
the fucking Tea Party.
Heavy.
Yeah.
And so it's all same shit, different toilet now. Yep. You just got a different name slapped on it.
Yep.
So now everybody's going on about Hamas and we're talking about MAGA. So
Yeah.
all kinds
MAGA's the new
I don't
swastika,
even know
baby.
what they're called anymore.
Fascism 2024, right?
Get it.
So it's weird times we're living in.
It is very strange, yeah.
So,
And so, it's especially with having kids, man, trying to have those conversations with kids even, you know what I mean? Because, like, my kids go to a small rural area and they hear opinions that clearly come from the parents and not the kids themselves, because the kids are not informed enough to have any kind of opinion on that. And then, you come home and you try to have the other side of that conversation with your kids. It's even tough there, you know what I mean? So,
right.
one thing that I do appreciate, even though it's it's on the topic of the kids thing, is we were pretty fortunate enough to have both sides of the fence. Whenever it came
I was going to say, yeah.
Like,
you guys did growing up?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Our dad was much more liberal than our mother, so
See, I didn't get that.
Both sides.
Yeah, it was funny. Dad was extremely liberal on most things, but there were a few things that he was like pretty conservative about, and especially like when Dad got older, he like took this like weird conservative turn again. I don't know how to describe it, but
that's the whole saying, though. Like, get more conservative as you get older, but
yeah,
I guess that's just more of a write-off than anything.
Well, I mean, again, we can talk about like the polar opposites of our parents and our upbringing. That's kind of, I think it kind of helped level us out as people in general, like adults in general, though, too.
You had to think twice as hard.
Yeah, no shit. No shit about that.
How the hell am I gonna get out of this one, or how are they gonna find this out?
Right, exactly. I know some of the things, like, again, we were talking about, like, whenever you're back home, too, was, like, some of the fond memories of growing up and, like, some of the silly shit that we did, even, I guess this is, like, early in my adulthood and in your late teen years, but, like, the shit that we would do, just, like, make up little rumors and things like that to get people talking and just kind of see how it was more of a sociological experiment is kind of the way I always looked at it. It wasn't, like, malicious, and the rumors were against ourselves.
Right, you like start something.
It
wasn't
it came back to you.
people.
There was no malicious intent towards any means. It was literally out of boredom.
Yeah,
right. Small town boredom, right?
Right.
Oh yeah,
and
it was we did good. We did good a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So
well, it kind of ties in with what you're saying, Josh, too. Is like living up in a small area, though, too. Is some of the opinions that you get are. Again, usually not informed opinions or uneducated opinions. It's not to say that ignorance is only in a small town, because that's not true either.
Right.
It's everywhere, and it's every shape, color, size. Right.
Well, actually, that's interesting because you live in Illinois, right?
Right.
So, like, how different is it politically, culturally out there than it is in Missouri? Is it pretty similar in rural Illinois, or?
So you got to look for it here, at least. I'm going to be honest. A lot of the time, I just avoid most of that. Like, if I'm in public, I'm usually in the moment talking versus trying to pick brains. Because although the area that I'm in, okay, I'll put it to you this way. So, the area that I'm in is basically kind of how Ironton is set up, where it's like Arcadia Valley, Pilot Knob, Ironton.
Right.
But take each of those towns, and there's at least 30,000 or more in each of those, and it's all here. So there's roughly 90,000 people in this general vicinity, and everybody does their best to mind their own business, which is pretty cool. So as far as general consensus goes, the only thing political that I have seen as far as being forward or outright about it is literally just during a lot of the BLM type movements. There was a considerable amount of corner protesting out in front of the police stations. There was no contest to them, though. There was no, save our kids versus Black Lives Matter, at all.
Right.
It was whoever was protesting, that's all there was. And I can appreciate that factor.
Sure.
I would imagine they probably got the finger and people screaming out the window, like, let's go Brandon or something. But like,
Sure. Sure.
So in that regard, it seems to be, I prefer it that way.
Yeah.
Because, as you stated, being in a small town, everybody having a general, or at least similar opinion,
Right.
there's a lot of, everybody brings it up
Sure.
because they can.
Well,
And,
everybody knows everybody at least through somebody is kind of like the problem, at least in this area too. Yeah, and what you're talking about as far as your population relative to here, so we're talking about towns that, have 1,000. One of them has like 800 or 900. The other one has like 1,400. Whereas, so you're talking like 30 times the size.
So you're in a pretty populated area still. I didn't know.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like that. Like, I always call it like the biggest little city in the area. It would basically be like the equivalent of like Reno, like tiny, but there's a lot going on, big diversity groups, and there's a little bit of everything for everybody. So
that's cool.
So,
and to drive on the point we were kind of touching on earlier, like some of the intent of the show to like coming back was to provide like the boots on the ground perspective of people, like what's actually happened. Like, because again, you watch the news, and sometimes it's all majority of the time it's all gloom and doom. It's like all these bad things are happening versus sounds like a pretty pleasant experience that you're having day to day up there. It's not too much crazy stuff going on. I mean, I'm sure we could report on the negative things, but this is everyday life. So some people don't have that perspective and see some of those extreme examples, and we can report on positive things as well. It doesn't always have to be negative,
right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you get a lot more energy out of somebody whenever it comes to something negative. So,
yeah. Well, in my profession, I see a lot of that too. It's like you always hear from like the negative people, and it's nobody ever takes the time to tell you to do a good job. Like it's the people that have something negative to say. I'd say it's often like 10-1. Like it's pretty staggering,
right?
And news headlines and that sort of thing's being sold the same way. And you can just look at it. You have to take a polarizing opinion one way or the other. It's all conjecture nowadays. It's not, these are the facts. This happened on this date at this time, and left it at that. Now there's these pundits and opinions, and it's just all opinion, especially whenever they had to make up material for 24-hour news networks as well.
One thing I want to know is how many Republican debates is CNN going to do?
Well, the last one was on. Well, they did one, didn't they?
I think they have, but I think they're going to do another. I think
they're bouncing around on the networks.
Yeah, are they bouncing around?
They just did the whatever network O'Reilly's on now. News something.
I just love
Newsmax.
I love
something
it.
like that.
It's just funny. But
yeah, and some of the clips. Every time I usually try to watch those, but I didn't watch the one that was Tuesday night. It was either Tuesday night or last night. I get confused. I think it was last night because Trump's thing on Fox was Tuesday.
Chris Christie and Vivek were going at it pretty hard.
I went on Max, and it was like, watch this now, and I'm like, I'm watching the Boondocks. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Just some of the funny things that was coming out, like I guess everything that everybody's running with from Trump's, because every time there's a Republican debate, like primary debate right now, Trump does his own thing, either the night before or the night after.
It has like a rally or some kind of speech.
Yeah,
so he was on Hannity.
Yeah, so interesting. Such a weird approach, but
he won't debate the other people because he sees them as being beneath him, and the polls don't say any differently.
I was going to say he's seeing gains with not being on the debate.
Exactly.
So putting himself on the debate stage is a risk because he's still gaining without the debates.
Right.
In the polls, in my opinion.
No, it's not opinion. That's exactly what's happening. That's what's funny about this.
And you know what? Like, diversion. So, and if you can sell it,
right?
I guess that's crazy, man. Like, does not play well with others.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's a known fact at this point. I think the big thing that everybody's running with.
I don't want to talk to you. Don't even look at me. If you do that, they'll either like it.
Exactly.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's pretty decent. I guess everybody's like latching onto this dictator thing.
Because it's day one.
Well, you got to understand like social media, what it'll do. And I'm not trying to defend the guy, but he did like walk around for like 5 minutes and not even address the question initially when he was on Hannity, and then eventually the clip that they took.
Right.
Exactly.
And don't forget, Hitler spent, what, 7 years in prison before he become Chancellor of Germany? He spent 7 years in prison before he became Chancellor.
Yeah.
So, we got a long time coming.
Okay, just so we're clear, I'm not comparing the guy to him. I'm just saying more or less that is a public speaking approach. That the art of engagement with your peers in general. I read into Hitler's like tactics and whatnot. Like basically, there's a book that I forget the name of it, but it basically talks about how he actually gained the momentum and traction in his community and the state in general, and a lot of it is just literally like psycho analytical tactics that are subtle, subconscious, and just draws people in without them even realizing it. You know, so who knows? Maybe they read that book over the summer.
Yeah, right. And you're right in to say that there's not a comparison between Hitler and Trump, but there is a lot of parallels.
Well, again,
with the rise of Hitler and Trump.
A lot of it goes back to the tactics, and that's like a lot of what's being used. That psychoanalytic piece that you're talking about, Aaron, I'm familiar with it because I actually just had heard somebody else talking about this, and in fact, they might have actually been talking about it on Conan and Disco's podcast, how there was a person who actually, I want to say it's Freud's cousin, maybe? Or some relation to Freud, actually like wrote some shit that basically they used in some like SS stuff, and now is a part of like marketing handbooks, what they actually use in marketing on purpose to like psychologically trick people.
You know what you wrote about everybody having mother issues? I can make up stuff too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of funny to like follow those breadcrumb trails and see how it's actually littered. Like, people are like probably ingesting some of that, to some extent, the same tactics that were used like in the fucking SS and the Nazi party and what have you. In Germany is why you bought these Nikes this week.
Man, I love my Nikes.
I'll lick a boot for these Nikes.
Hell yeah.
Let's touch on some other funny shit. So one of these stories that we told at the party the other night too, just kind of like lean back into that comment earlier of us doing stuff to entertain ourselves in a small town. Of course, one time, Aaron had a girlfriend, and I told him we decided to fuck with Ridge. So everybody knows Ridge on the podcast now. And I had a laptop, and I was like, "Hey, I'm going to set your girlfriend's profile picture." It was like probably MySpace at the time. I don't even think we were like really on Facebook yet.
At least for MySpace, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "I'm going to set your girlfriend's profile picture on the back as my background, and like I want you to act like you're pissed off about it." I said, "We'll go outside and we'll act like we're having a tussle or whatever, and we'll freak Ridge out." And you're like, "Okay." And I didn't have to explain any more than that, and we were pretty much off to the races. So Ridge came over, and I got the laptop out, and I was like, "Hey, man, come over here, take a look at this." And you sat down next to me, and you're like, "What the fuck, dude?" And like shoved me, and I was like, "What, man? I think she's hot." And Ridge was like looking at me like, "What the fuck's happening right now?" Ridge looked like he was like
seeing
a kid
stars, in the corner,
like he was tripping.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Okay, let's kind of like, I don't know." We just like naturally went through this. It wasn't like we had to tell each other like what to do.
Yeah. We watched we watched enough wrestling to,
I was going to say,
yeah.
Your wrestling influences.
Yeah, definitely. Like we took it outside, and we had us a little fake like Stone Cold. It was I was basically trying to be Booker T while I was letting him be Stone Cold in the shopping market. Essentially, once we made it outside,
Yeah.
The only thing we were missing was probably a 2 gallon of milk. But I had him slapping me off the side of the house.
2 gallons of milk and a banana.
And Ridge ended up like walking out there like, oh my god, like kind of freaking out, and like, "Hey man, we're just fucking with you." He's like,
he was literally about to leave.
He was about. Yeah, he was about to leave for sure. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
The
so
going
these are
gets
kind of
tough. I get going.
like.
Fight or flight, baby.
Yeah, I told him he needed to call in tonight so we could pick on him too. But yeah, we the other funny thing I wanted to bring up that we did too was and again this like goes back into like we're just making fun of ourselves, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know why we thought it was a good idea, but we did. I think it was like some girl I was dating at the time, and it was kind of a trashy situation or whatever. And I was
Yeah,
like, hey, it'd be
it was
really
somebody that
funny.
you were like talking to or something. It was like somebody
It
you didn't
was
really have
yeah, it
a
wasn't
lot
nothing
of connection
serious.
with. But, yeah.
Right, exactly right. It was nothing serious. But I was just like, hey, it'd be really funny if like we just said like I was gonna be a dad and I could like we could like just kinda like walk away from this thing. You
You
know?
know what? You know what? It was. We told everybody that it was some like 30-something-year-old lady. It was like some
Oh yeah,
random
like
lady
an
that
older
he hooked
lady.
up with. Yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
random hookup. And coming back to
And
it, like yeah.
she got pregnant.
So this is probably
No,
like 2007 or 8
I'll
maybe.
say
8?
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, so somewhere in that ballpark like 2008. So flash forward about a year later, I meet my now wife. Well, I say meet, we knew each other from school and stuff, but we started dating. And like early on, like within the first few weeks of dating, she her sisters she tells her sister, younger sister who she's dating, and she's like, "Oh, Barrett Lewis, Aaron Lewis's older brother," and she's like, "Yeah." Well, you know he has a baby, right? And this is just
Yeah.
something like we just put on like one like MySpace. Like MySpace used to, I don't remember
It
the
was like
phrase of
comment.
it. It was like a
Yeah,
well, you could put stuff on your wall, but then there was like a timeline thing that everybody could see from what I remember.
yeah. Couldn't like people sign your profile too, or something like that? Didn't people used to like
Well,
come and
they
sign your
could
profile?
leave comments on your profile.
Yeah,
There was a like if there was like a message
almost.
board or something thing on
Yes,
there,
yeah,
you had to click on it and actually like, read whatever it was.
right.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Yeah, I'm thinking it was that like once that was implemented because we were like done with MySpace just a few months after this, but it was like a newer
'cause I
feature
thought
that
that
it had. Like
we
it was a
said something in the
story,
comment or something at one point that was like,
right?
but it was like nothing that was like, hey, look at this. Like we never
Exactly.
promoted it. It was just like
Like
this
it was
little
in
detail.
passing,
Yeah.
and I started getting messages, and particularly like this girl that we're talking about at the time, she like was messaging me like, "Well, you're gonna be a dad?" And I'm like, yeah, man. Well, who's she? Well, it's not important. We don't really know, you know. It was just like a one night stand. Oh, well, congratulations. Yep. I'm just going to be moving on forward with my life with that. Well, again, back flash forwarded to Pam talking to her sister. So Pam comes to me and Pam says, well, my sister told me that you have a kid. And I'm like, I totally forgot about the whole thing. That it even happened. We just did it like there was a few messages like a few days following, you know, and that was the end of it. Like nobody explored it any further. And we just thought it was a dead thing.
Yeah,
And
totally forgot about it. Moved on with our lives.
yeah. And then a year later, I got my now wife like grilling me, like, "Well, who's your kid? And who'd you have your kid with?" And I'm like, I guess she thought I seemed like kind of evasive at first, as if I was like lying about it. I'm like, no, like the only thing I could be thinking of is this one time me and my brother like played this prank and said that I had a kid, but like it was only like a select few people I think knew about that. And so somehow it made its rounds, I guess,
All the
at
way
the
back.
school. And Pam's little sister, who's like, I think she's got to be close to 10 years younger than her, knew about it and like shared it back around with the family whenever I started courting her that I had a child out of wedlock.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And that just goes back to that small town, rural area stuff. That plays right into that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody talks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody knows somebody. Well, since Brian was supposed to be our guest of honor here, and I know you probably listened to the episode that we did with Brian previously, I wasn't able to share too many of your guys' stories specifically, and I know he would be able to add more to it if he was here on the call today. But what are like your early memories of meeting Brian and that sort of stuff, and what from your perspective, like how you guys hit it off?
I want to say the first time that me and Brian even interacted and or like even exchanged names, I guess had to have been like second or third grade. and I was like drawing or something. I don't know. I was like drawing something or whatever, and then I can't remember exactly. Like I know that we were in proximity to each other. I want to say that he like said something to me first, but then I was just like, "Who are you?" Because like you're not usually in my class, kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
so then it was, well, what are you doing? Oh, I'm drawing. Like, can you draw? Yeah, I can draw. And the next thing you know, like Brian's drawing, and I was just like, Brian's really good at drawing. Like, I need to get good at drawing like Brian, this kind of thing. And then,
Yeah.
so that's where I think we initially got along, and then there's a couple great, like, the next couple years in passing the hallway, this and that kind of got to be friends. And then I think about fourth grade is whenever we really started being friends, and then all through middle school got better and better friends.
Yeah.
I know that you're probably about to go into the some of our specific memories that stick out.
Sure.
I think probably my top number one memory of Brian is probably, and I don't know if I should say names on here or not. It's not really anything incriminating. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But
we're also all kids, so take that for what it's worth.
Well, one time, I'll just leave it at first names. So one time, this dude Josh was picking on one of mine and Brian's mutual friends at the time. His name was Willie. So Josh decides that he's going to pick on him, and we're at the bleachers in the gym, and Brian didn't really like that, so he ended up like jumping over like some people down to where Josh was, and just fucking punched him right in the eyeball, like no hesitation.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a beat. So that's probably like one of my favorites for real. But yeah, outside of that, just like playing, like we talk to each other on the phone like almost daily, like hours at a time, forever. Just talk about nothing.
Yeah.
I tell you this, he always wanted to be an entertainer and always wanted to rap and sing, and like that's where he is now. So
I'm glad that you brought up that story, because I feel like that's some of like what we shared on that episode that he was on, was the fact that he was a guy, and I probably didn't lean into it enough, that always like leaned into like doing the right thing as far as like treating people the right way and that sort of stuff. And any slight,
no
slighting of anybody else, right? Yeah, even if it was a friend, like not even maybe even like a good friend of his, but somebody he was on good terms with, like he would always stand up for like the little guy. And he's always been that type of guy, which I think we feel like we're that way. And I think that might be like maybe one of the strongest things that all kind of like binds us together, is that the only people that get picked on are the people that deserve it,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
Pretty much, yeah. There's nothing wrong with a little good razz in here and there.
Yeah, but between friends, that don't count.
Yeah, but there's no sense in being a piece of shit,
Right.
And if you're going to be a piece of shit, you're going to get treated like one. So
absolutely,
right.
Comes with the territory.
I know he wasn't ever afraid to throw hands when it came time. So that's the kind of guy you want in your corner.
He's always been A-type. Yeah, one time he punched this kid named Jesse in the face because he like touched his balls or something.
That's a pretty valid reason.
Yeah, that's a pretty funny sign. He literally just the dude started messing with him and tried to like I guess like, wrestle with him or something. Which Brian was like, I don't want to do this kind of thing, and he was just like he just said something along the lines. He's like, "You motherfucker, you just touched my balls," and then just turned around and like hit him right in the nose, and he just like went back into the recycling bin, like inside of the recycling bin. So that's pretty good. And I don't think Brian got any kind of punishment for that, actually. I think the other kid actually got in trouble for that. So, good for you.
Yeah, occasionally those things work out, I've only had that happen a few times in my life where I also did something bad, but nothing happened to me, and I probably should have also gotten in trouble.
Justifiably bad.
It seemed like I always got in trouble for shit that I was never doing. Like, I remember one time there was this kid named Russell, and they stole like a Viagra or something and put it in his chocolate milk at school. And because I was sitting at the table, I also got expelled.
Well,
because no one
you
would rat
are
on each
always
other.
a victim, Josh.
Right.
You
So
got that victim mentality.
yeah, that's true. Always playing victim. No doubt about that.
It's one thing we all know about you, Josh.
Yeah, it's true.
Paid for the action, I stayed for the victimization. You know.
Yeah,
That's
there
right.
you go. There you
That's
go.
right.
Yeah.
I see
About
you
to
got
make
some.
my victim.
We got there back behind you. You slapping on some stuff back there? You got a kit back there?
Oh, can't see it very well. But
E-jumps?
yeah, it's my electric kit, and then my
Hell yeah.
hat stack over here. There's a whiteboard on the side that's got a bunch of gibberish scribbled on it that makes sense.
You still actively writing and
Yeah.
playing and stuff? Cool,
Yeah.
man. Great. That's good to hear.
Trying to get this HATEMAKER stuff off the ground. So
Yeah.
hit a few
Cool.
snags along the way, but we got we playing up about 20-something minutes worth of material right now. We kind of want to keep writing though and keep that momentum so we can pick and choose what we want. Kind of
Hell yeah. Get your shit lined out and then bring your boys on the show.
Yeah.
So once we get there, we have a track that's going to be released at some point. So,
Well, when you're ready to release it, we'll put it on the show.
Send it over, man. I'm excited.
yeah,
for it.
I'll send it over to you guys, and then you guys can critique and see if it's even worthy of sharing.
Oh, you gotta be like that. We'll share it. You're playing drums in that, right?
Yeah. Although we've kind of been experimenting lately to where me and the guitar player may be taking turns on different songs, just switching off instruments.
That's cool.
Like I said, it's kind of experimental at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool, and it's kind of interesting too. Just the difference in the play style. Especially like the same genre, obviously, but just the different qualities. That, you know, he highlights things a little bit different compared to where I'm at with it. So, but it's been fun and still fun. So.
Everybody sees things differently through their lenses, and I could. Brad and Calvin and I were having this discussion. It's like, you could take this approach like with any song. You might have a song in 4/4, and I'm going to do some of my signature chops, and then Calvin's going to do some of his signature chops, and Brad's going to do some of his signature chops. But it's all still in 4/4, right? So it doesn't make it wrong. It's just you have your certain flair, right? For sure. Yeah. But that actually applies to guitar even.
It's shameless plug. If there's any sweet bass players out there that are into like some metallic hardcore stuff, hit us up.
Hell yeah.
Oh, you still need a bass player?
Yeah. It's kind of hard to find players for the genre that are familiar with it already. So, and it's not that grooming and conditioning people is really a big issue. It's just, are they picking it up?
Right.
Do they want to do it? Or are they just showing up? Whatever type thing. I mean, just like any group effort, it requires like 100% from everybody. So.
Right.
Yeah. If your heart ain't in it, it ain't gonna happen.
Right. Yeah. So we're just trying to move forward on that.
Yeah. I think like some of the trappings that you fall into, I know like anytime that I was trying to get bands together too, it's like, it seems like bass is the instrument that people want to play the least. And I don't know if it's just because of like the flair or they don't feel like it's like it's
bullshit.
It has to be.
Is it like an attention thing, you think?
Like,
I think that's probably an element of that.
Like,
it is.
Like
yeah,
if
you can really.
If I wasn't drumming right now, like I would love to fucking play bass. Like.
Yeah.
Have big, fat, nasty, clanky low end, like, and just enjoy, like, being able to have fun while you're playing. And it's just like any other instrument. It's so important too. Like.
Right. Yeah, having a good tight rhythm section in any band is key to me liking them. I know that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I've heard plenty of bands where the bass player just gets up and hits the root notes of whatever the guitar player is playing at the time, and that's just not my bag these days. I just can't.
You gotta get the drummer and the bass player basically on their own rhythm. It adds so much more characteristic and quality to anything really that you're doing. So.
Think you've seen it all? Guess again. ATI Podcast presents Yule Log Tradition. See, your Christmas traditionals in an all-new light. Remember such hits as
Rudolph the Hair-Lipped Reindeer,
or who could forget the classic
Jingle Ball Rock,
and
Grandma Got Humped by a Reindeer,
one could never forget
Silver Balls,
the one for the kids,
Frosty the Snowman,
a heartfelt tradition.
Last Christmas I gave you my stars,
And who could ever forget?
I saw Mommy fucking Santa Claus.
And you can't forget about the Christmas tree.
Crack rocking around the Christmas tree.
And how many days is it until Christmas?
69 days of Christmas.
And we can't forget the jingles.
Jingle ball, jingle ball, jingle ball cock.
And who could ever forget that John Lennon classic?
Happy Christmas, we're still going.
Who could forget that Christmas classic from the King?
Blue Ball Christmas.
The amazing once-in-a-lifetime collaboration between David Bowie and Bing Crosby.
Little common boy.
And we can't leave Emmanuel out of the party.
Oh come on me, Emmanuel.
With just a few easy installments of $19.99, 3 bank drafts, and your social security number as well as your blood type, this brand new CD can be yours. The ATI Podcast presents Yule Log Traditions. Just PayPal us directly at Barry and Say.
Shipping and handling not included, $99.99. Also must be included at the time of purchase.
Order now while supplies last. Call 888-284-2868. That is 888 ATI Cont. 888 ATI Cont.
Yeah, I was going to say that was one thing, I had like a newer experience and you so kindly came out to watch me record that part for the movie a few weeks back. And, like we had an actual practice, like we were prepared to actually like play that thing live in front of everybody. It didn't really work out that way. We had to play like at minimal volume for editing purposes, but like we were prepared to like rip it up there. We did get like one take that we did get to rip it, but like nobody was in there. And then, then he brought in the crowd and then we didn't get to rip it, so it was like, we like really, we practiced like really independently hard. And then like whenever we showed out at, I can't even remember the name of it. I want to say Jupiter Studios. Does that sound right? Utopia Studios. Studios. Yeah. Utopia Studios. Brad had a rental space there. So I ended up playing bass on that deal. And that was one thing Brad and I, but I also think it's because like drums is my primary instrument. Because I kept telling Joey the whole time, Joey Rackavan, who's been on the show before, played guitar in this. I kept telling him like, hey man, I'm gonna probably like I'm gonna learn what you're playing so I know like what I'm playing is in key, but my strikes I'm gonna be like syncopating with like what Brad does on the drums and with the bass, like his bass drum in particular.
The bass and the drums have to complement each other.
It's like more important to me to have that rhythm locked in than it is for me to be and that I'm in key versus playing exactly what you're playing when you're playing. And I said that I don't know if that's something that you're accustomed to with other people you've played with on a string instrument. Because I've been in bands with Joey before, but I've always played drums. I've never played a stringed instrument with him. So, he needs to know like where I'm coming from too. Like we practiced for like 3 hours and a song that literally wasn't really written until the night before. Like we had that fucking thing down.
Yeah.
And Brad and I locked in immediately with like, all right, we're going to do this like 4 on the floor part and I'm going to hit the bass drum at the same time. Which is really funny is Joey can't like really play like in the back of the pocket as a guitar player because he kept telling me he's like hey I can't do what you guys are doing and he was like no he's like you guys can do that, it sounds awesome because like I laid out on a part and it kind of goes like into this like pretty cool like pre-chorus thing, and so Joey was like I can't play on the backbeat like you guys play, and I was like you can't because you don't want to or you literally cannot. Because I didn't really understand what he meant by that statement. He was like, no, I can't. And I think it kind of goes like into like his OCD and stuff. But he's like, no, I just cannot like physically play that way. And it was like, oh, okay, well, that's something I did know, having played with you so many times before, But I was also like playing in like heavy bands with like time signature changes and stuff with him, so like everything was pretty, on beat for the most
Yeah,
part.
I was gonna say that was one thing too with like the stuff that you guys have done in the past. Especially with the group that you had for a while, when everybody was on the same page, like everybody had their own rhythm that just meshed really well. Just the way it was like written and everything. So that would be a great reason why. It
Yeah,
would have been hard to notice at that time, because Joey was doing his thing, Richard was doing his thing, you were doing your
right.
thing. So
It's kind of hard to like capture that chemistry sometimes, and yeah, you got to go through some people. I've been fortunate enough to know a lot of people in my lifetime. I feel like, and I know you're like this too, Aaron. Like you're pretty open to like trying anything, even if it doesn't work initially. Because there's things that people deal with, like nerves and just the natural things of being a human, right?
right.
That's challenging about like getting together and playing music with new people.
Yeah, and it's
Sometimes
every
people are
time
like,
that you meet somebody new.
sometimes people are really good musicians, but they just like the pressure of like being around new people. And then if they've never like really played in front of people, or they haven't played in front of a large amount of people, like all those things play a factor unless you've like actually crossed those hurdles.
Yeah,
Unless somebody's just like naturally, not a person that's shook in those scenarios. But I think like people will even find, even if they don't think that they are and they haven't experienced that stuff before, that once they finally do, maybe they are, too.
Oh yeah, I think as I've aged, my social anxiety's definitely gotten way worse. You know what I mean?
Well, you get stuck in your ways; it gets easier
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I think the older that you get,
yeah.
Right.
I have just tried to adopt. I don't know. I guess you could say I lie to myself all the time, and I'm just like, this is a walk in the
yeah,
park, like whatever the situation is.
disassociation, man,
Yeah,
disassociation.
like
Yep,
take it till you make it kind of thing. So it's just like,
yep,
and like you said, I mean, within the last year, I've probably played with more new musicians than I have in my entire life, and
right,
that's a whole. And I mean, you just gotta go in there and own it. You just gotta worry about what you're doing, like,
right.
and just go from there. And there are, like you said, there's a lot of times where there's natural chemistry between you and whoever you're playing with, and you almost could tell immediately, which is
Right.
such a blessing. Because like you get like once you guys get going, you're just like, all right, this we already know. Like we're both right
Yeah.
here. We're like dick to dick, nose to nose. We got this.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, Unfortunately, like my guitar player now, which he's it's so weird to think now, but he's a younger cat. He's about 10 years younger than I am, and so early 20s. And me and
Yeah.
him just clicked so well, and it was like the first time we ever got together and started playing. It was almost just like lightning immediately. It was just like, all right, like even if this doesn't work out, we're gonna do stuff regardless. Like,
Yeah.
so, um, yeah, but the whole social anxiety that comes with um, putting yourself in different environments with new
Yes.
people is definitely it's a feat, and it's hard to, and it's easy to lose yourself too, or snowball or spiral, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. Yes.
So there was one instance not too long ago where I kind of felt that way in the moment because it was getting together with somebody who's like a very seasoned musician. Played for some bands that Barrett put me on to at a younger age, and I was real excited about it, and that's where I went wrong. Like I got excited, so I get there and
Sure.
I'm like, cool, I got this, whatever, and it turned out to be like this. I mean, this guy wasn't a hero, but there was kind of this whole like don't meet your heroes type thing. There's like you have this respect for somebody that you
Sure.
don't know, and then you like meet them and then there's all of a sudden there's these expectations you didn't know existed.
Right.
And
Right.
so then you really start tripping yourself out, which I don't handle that very well. I get mad about it. Um,
Yeah, I hear that.
So my reaction was, "You're not going to talk to me like that. I'm out. Like I'm leaving. I'm packing my shit up." Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, which
Well,
we
I think kind of
experienced
what you're
words
touching
similar
on.
to that. So,
Yeah, I think what you're kind of hitting on is like respect, though, too. It's like
Right.
regardless of there are those in the music field, and I definitely want to make this point that there's a pomposity to them, like like they have this thought of themselves, especially if they're really good or like skilled or a savant at their trade, to where like the human end of it and humility isn't a strong suit. They just like have this expectation of everybody else, even if they've met them off the street for the first time, or you know, they have credentials that they should know exactly what they're talking about. They should play the way that they expect them to play. It's like, expectations go two ways, man. You don't, and regardless of how good of a musician you are, if you're a fucking dick, I don't want anything to do with you personally. That's me.
yeah, for sure, dude. Especially whenever it comes to like getting together with people, like my intention is to have a good time. Like we can yuck it up first
Yes.
minute, get to know each other a little bit,
Yes.
and like we can jam, see if it's clicking or not. If not, like
Right.
let's figure out if there's just something silly that's going on, or if there is like a skill deficit between the two, or whatever it is. Like, and then move on from
Right.
there. But then there's, like you said, people that uh, just have such already have a preconceived notion of
Right.
how it should go, and if it's not going that way, then it's just bad. Like whatever's happening
Right.
right now is bad. And it's like,
And I don't care who you
yeah,
are. Like anybody can have a one-time bad meeting, regardless of like how cool you ultimately might end up being with somebody. Like I'm not like really like first impressions are important, but I don't think it's fair to judge a person on a first impression either. I
right,
think you have to
right.
kind of try and keep an open mind. The other important point that I want to make with people that are often like the stereotype that we're talking about too is they often don't realize that there's always somebody out there better than them. And I did make it a
100%.
comment about humility, and that's where that comment of humility actually I want to apply it is the fact that you always have to realize that while somebody might not be where you perceive yourself, on the scales of music capability, it doesn't mean that they can't get there. Sometimes people have to play with people better than them to get better. It's like the rising
Dude, that
tides
is
phenomenon. That's
that
a
is
real
my
thing.
favorite. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Our friend Levi, um, who is he has been on the show, obviously. Um, he's in the band Paprika from New Orleans. Shout out to the homies.
Yep.
That's one thing that I always like. There's like a really like high on the list favorite for mine and his relationship is his musicianship and his ability to adapt very, very quickly at that. He's very confident in his music ability and how he plays. He's obviously not pompous about it, but anytime we'd get together and jam, he always set this tone where I was just like, all right, I can do that, and I can do it, and I got to do it better. It was never like, oh, I got to be better than Levi. It's like, all right, like he showed me, like I've seen this in person, and I know exactly what's happening. So like now I'm going to apply that to what I'm doing, and all
Right.
that does is make whoever you are a better player. Period. Like,
Right.
so there's no like wrong meeting whenever it comes to playing with somebody else who's better than you.
Well, I was going to say Levi's a guy too that is pretty like great at multiple instruments too, and I've never seen him be
Mm-hmm.
like a dick to other people. Well, unless they probably deserved it too. And so it kind of goes back to that comment we were making earlier.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's pretty like subtle if he's like not into whatever it is.
Sure.
Cause we were gonna start that cross band forever ago, and like we just had a hard time keeping a drummer, and I was like, I can do it, whatever. So I get behind the kit, and he's like playing. He's just like, we get done with the song. He's like, yeah, I'd probably just rather you have these vocals. It's like
Yeah.
heard, like you don't gotta tell me again, whatever. I mean, I will say this one time I did end up playing. We were trying out this guitar player for one of my last bands. we had like a ton of people come through, and this one guy comes through, kind of an awkward guy. And he had this like kind of a silly setup. He had this like it was like a 112 or a 212 or something, and we're like, I don't think this is gonna be really loud enough, considering this dude's running full stack and this guy's got an 810, blah blah, whatever. And he's like running in like all of his effects and everything are through his laptop that he has like ran into his little combo thing, and I'm like, well, I mean, all we can do is try,
Yeah.
Turns out this dude fucking, like, wipes the floor with any fucking guitar player I've ever met. Like, he was like, too good for me to even be able to play with. Like, he's like, the timing's in, like, 9 whatever, blah, blah, and I'm like, that's something, bud. Like,
Yeah.
And then, like, turn around, and he gets on the drums, and is, like, one of the best drummers I've ever heard in my entire life, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? Then he gets on the mic and he's like one of the best vocalists, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, and I don't like this has got to be like one of those like punk things or something. Like I'm so confused right now, and like, why did you even come out here? Like
Well, you don't know what you're walking into sometimes,
Yeah,
right. But that is funny that he came up on it.
Yeah, like I feel like that was it. He's like, you know what? I just feel like making these guys look like chumps.
Was he like a decent dude at least?
Oh, he was very, very nice, very cordial, very humble. And even whenever it got to a point where it's just like, I can't keep up with this guy, he's just like, yeah, it's just like in this timing. And I'm like, I'm trying, bud. Like, it's like you play that timing, and then I'll just try, dude. It's like, and he's like,
right,
okay. And we're like,
was this just you and him?
It was me, him, my buddy Sean. I want to say our bass player was there, or showed up at some point, but there was the three of us, and it just turned out to be a whole, like, even,
deal.
Like, which our guitar player is the one that got him to come out in the first place, and then, like, whenever guy left, he's like, I fucking wish that I didn't do that. Like, he's like, now I feel really bad about my guitar ability. he's like, no, dude, for real, like, he's so good, and I'm like, he really is, dude, like, he's up there. Like, he could be playing, like, Animals as Leader type shit, like, no problem.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Yeah, he's
nice.
very, very skilled. He's got a few bands now. Hyperithal, and I forget his. If I think of him, I'll shout him out later, but they're out of
Kansas
in the
City, St. Louis area?
Currently.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, they are all nuts because dude's a monster, and if you're to like check death and stuff, hit me up. I'll send it to him. He's a beast.
So one thing I wanted to do with you, just out of curiosity, is kind of like what we do with some of our other guests, and that's like give you an opportunity to do some fantasy booking. And let's say that you get the opportunity to book your own festival. Let's say it's Aaron Fest, and you get to have any 4 bands, any period of time, to play this festival. What 4 bands are you going with?
If I get 4 bands any period of time, well, yeah, I guess it'll have to be kind of random because there's just too many,
Right.
Dream
right.
Festival.
I may even up saying bands that I've already seen, but Black Sabbath for sure. Ozzy Sabbath is like on there 100%. Like I am still very sad that I wasn't able to catch their last tour release. I really fucking love Gate Creeper, so they're just gonna have to go on there.
Okay.
They know if you guys aren't, or if there are people who are not familiar that are listening to them, they're kind of a chill death metal band, almost stoner metal. And they got that sweet like chainsaw sounding guitar stuff going on. So we got Sabbath, Gate Creeper, Van Halen again. Like
lucky you.
Love those guys. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to catch their last tour with Eddie.
Damn.
So,
cool.
We also got pretty lucky while we were there because we initially got lawn tickets shortly into their like Van Halen set. I forget who opened for them, but shortly into Van Halen set, these 2 random guys walked up, asked my friend John, like, hey, do you want these tickets? And he's like, no. And then I was just like thought about it. I was like, I know that like Live Nation likes to go around during shows and like hand off stuff to people. So I was just like, sure, I'll take them. Whatever. Gave me 2 of them. So then my friend ended up walking up to the gate, that separates the lawn from like the seating area. And we're just like, hey, where are they? And she's like, go up to the next gate. And I was like, cool. We get there, and like the next gate's like, all right, go up to the next gate. And I'm like, we're going to the floor. So we ended up getting, I think we were fifth row.
Shit.
Yeah. So
Yeah, man.
So I watched a good chunk of their set there, and then I don't know, my empathy or sympathy or whatever kicked in. I'm not familiar with those things, so I'm trying to, so that kicked in, and I was just like, I should probably go, and I was like, we should go back and like let John and his brother, which they're fucking old enough to be my dad. I was like, and that's like been his favorite band since they came out, this and that, whatever. So I was just like, we might as well go back. We'll just give them the tickets so they can go finish off the set up there or whatever. So they went up there and enjoyed them for the rest of that. So yeah, Sabbath, Jay Creeper, Van Halen. I'm trying to think of something that's like not metal related. That would be pretty cool. I've never seen Off-Road Minivan, but I would love to see them. That's not necessarily an all-time favorite, I guess, but they're like definitely a current favorite. If you're not familiar with them, they're kind of thrice on the indie spectrum there. But I really, lyrically, musically, there's something about them that just like really resonates.
Yeah.
So currently, I mean, if you ask me tomorrow, I'll probably give you a different answer.
Sure.
That's the beauty about music. Man.
Yeah. That's one of the more difficult questions. Like Ridge and I used to occasionally just in the late hours of the night, just randomly, like we would text each other like dream festival lineups. And it used to be like 4 or 5 bands, and like we would just try to like book the perfect show for like whatever. When we would start with an idea, it's like, let's do a bill with Converge, for example, and then we'd punch off all these bands would be awesome to see Converge with, and just try to book like a dream ticket, like almost like a Taste of Chaos type, where it's a festival but not like too many bands and there's only one stage, So
yeah,
that was always fun.
Yeah, 4 is definitely like pretty hard to like.
Sure.
So,
yeah,
which is it's good critical thinking challenge,
Yeah.
So.
How about let's talk about like bands that are on your bucket list that you haven't seen that you would obviously that are like feasible to still yet see. Right. So like not, I guess I'd be like, well, you have seen Every Time I Die, but like a band that's broken up that probably ain't getting back together, I guess we'll just like lead them off the list, like No Oasis or something like that. Those are easy examples to pull out of my mind. But what would you say is like maybe like 4 bands that are on your bucket list that like, okay, I'm gonna see these guys when I got the money, the dates work out,
Solely out of I guess sentimentality or it's just like because they're like obviously like especially anybody who's like super into music and or is like an concert goer is always like there's always like bands that you don't even have to think about. They're just like there's a list like that you never made that is like I have to see them, and it's not even at this point because like I still really listen to them frequently or anything, but it's like it's like almost like a period in your life. And I know that it's but like Carnifex is one of those bands. I don't really listen to them anymore. As I've kind of like moved away from the whole like deathcore thing. It's not terribly far, but it's like not necessarily like that's nothing I listen to on a day-to-day basis. But like they have always like they've been in bands that like I've known of them. And I'm like this is a band that I need to see, and they don't fucking stop touring. It's just I just never went to see them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, so like they're on there more of a just because listing. Right. I really want to see Turnover. I never see them touring, I guess, or at least they never tour the Midwest. So, or that I'm aware of. So like I would really love to see those guys. That satisfies my more apathetic side. Yeah. Carnifex, Turnover, then band that I have not seen. I've been really good about seeing bands lately, so yeah. Never seen Seosin.
Okay.
And they are one of those bands that's like they may not be together, but they get together. So they definitely fall in that category where there's like realistically. So I would
think
like to
they're
see
supposed
them.
to be releasing a new album with Anthony Green sometime soon.
Yeah, and
They're recording at some point this year.
Yeah, they're posting footage of recording too. I'm pretty sure, but not with Anthony.
Cool.
I think it was with Cove. But
I think they're open to doing stuff with Cove still yet. I know that they did that album we saw.
Yeah,
what was that? 2016,
which was unbelievable to see. Anthony Green with Seosin was unbelievable. Yeah, that was bucket list stuff for me. Yeah,
that was pretty crazy.
That's how I would prefer to see it for sure. But it would be. Yeah, I think if the next time that they try that, there's a whole like if they do another run like that, I'll probably just see them regardless of who's doing vocals for them. Just because that's another nostalgic type thing there.
I don't know if Postal Service is a big one for you, but they're coming. Yeah, that's a bucket list band for me. So I'm going to try like hell to see that one. So I think it's a shape.
Also, you're getting the Death Cab.
Yeah, you're getting both, right? Yeah, like when my dad passed. Like
Slowpoke is opening for them, which I highly recommend if you like indie stuff and it's a chick lead singer.
Yeah,
she's got really great vocal melodies and like really good. I know, man. She's got some of those Lisa Simpson meme ones where it's like play that song that hurts me.
I crank it,
on the iPod.
Yeah. I was going to say
she's got some tracks like that, man.
When my dad passed, I went really heavy into Death Cab, so that would be cool to see live too.
Yeah, they're doing. I think it's translating.
Yeah.
Or transcendentalism.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's the 20-year reunion tour.
Translating dental.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Seosin, so I was thinking translating the name, but it's not that. It's transcendentalism, I believe.
Yeah, something weird. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one.
So I said Carnifex, Turnover, and Seosin. So then,
right.
Mastodon. I haven't seen them yet. Surprisingly,
really,
like, even to myself, I've not seen Mastodon. I really wanted to go check them and Gojira when they came. Last month I think it was, or at the factory or the old Rock House. I think one of the two, but. I'd really like to see Mastodon. It'd be really cool to see them do like a Leviathan.
For sure.
Like special or whatever you want to call it.
That might be a real possibility because that should be coming up on a anniversary before long.
Fucking 20th anniversary.
Yeah, I believe so because I think that came out like 2005. I mean, I'm just doing this from memory, so...
I would say I remember being pretty young whenever, like, Tusk was, like, being played and whatnot. Is that the same album? No.
It's been, like, my senior year.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
But, yeah, I have seen Mastodon.
Blood Thunder is what I was thinking of, because they had the Carnival.
Oh, that was... that was after the Leviathan album, I think.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
But not too long after.
But
either an album or two later. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my 4 off the top of my head.
Well, I saw them with Converge, High on Fire, and Death Clock.
Death Clock, I was so sad that I didn't get to go. You and Ridge went to that, didn't you?
Yeah, me, Ridge, Levi, Pam. For some reason, I thought you went with us. I believe one other person went with us, but I cannot remember who.
It was the full Death Clock get up? Like, was it all of them? With Brendan was there and everybody?
How they do it is they put, like, a screen up in front of them.
Right, and they, like, put the animations up. But I think, like, the drummer from Death Clock is, like, the drummer for Testament. I can't think of that guy's name.
That's the hero.
That's who it is.
I don't know who was on that tour from memory now.
Yeah, because he's had different people play with
him.
There
was a big guy with a beard. There's probably the dude from That's the Hero.
I did not see who, because again the screen was
right,
in, and they had like the
kind of like how the Gorillas
interesting.
Do it.
That's interesting because whenever I seen them at the pageant, they had the Titantron behind them, and then everybody in front of it or whatever. But that might just be how it's set up there, you know.
Yeah, this was at the pageant when I saw them.
Okay, so they just ended up switching it up then, I guess.
Yeah, and I might be misremembering it because we didn't stay for the full set.
Boo!
Something happened where we had to leave in the middle of them for some reason. I don't remember what was going down. Some shit.
They were so good.
I want to say Levi got too drunk and was about to get in a fight, and Ridge was freaking out or something. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, but I could be wrong.
That wouldn't be surprising. Levi's
Yeah.
like, I'm getting wasted and Converge. Somebody's getting knocked.
Yeah. Well, High on Fire played first, then Converge, which that is the weirdest place I've seen. I've seen Converge so many places, and that was definitely the weirdest I had ever seen them anywhere. I don't think it was the first time I saw them, but now I'm having trouble. I know I've seen them at least 3 times, if not 4. They played at Fubar, which was the best time. Well, no, I take that back. Exited. We road tripped. Me, Levi, Ridge, and a chick that Ridge used to work with. We road tripped on election night in 2012, and I wore my Eat Shit Mitt shirt. And Jacob Bannon kept looking at me because I think he thought I had like a pro Mitt Romney shirt on, but it was like a Spencer's buy that was like it said Eat Shit Mitt across the top of it, and I had like a flannel over it, and I was like, I kind of pulled it back a little bit just because it was like, I hope he doesn't think like I'm supporting Mitt Romney right now, and he's gonna punch me in the face at some point, you know. But
swinging at you.
Yeah, that was the best. That was the best I'd seen them. But it was at that Exit In venue that they had in Nashville. I believe they closed their doors. Something else may have reopened in its place now, but I saw them with Torch, Kevlar Tech, Whips and Chains, which was the dude from Coliseum, and which they were loud as fuck. I feel like there was one other band maybe I'm forgetting, but Torch was. Oh, I'm so glad I got them. That's the one and only time I've seen them, and I'm so glad that I saw them.
Yeah, I forgot
before
about
they broke
them.
up. Yeah, they just broke up here recently in the last year or so. They put out that one last single together.
I was gonna say you were talking about Converge, and it just made me think of kind of chaotic situations, and it just made me just the fact that we're all 3 here, just missing Dustin, but we went to that Chariot show at the Creepy Crawl 2, I think it was.
Yep.
Rode up in Josh's fucking beater with no struts in the back. And
yeah. And I think I had like a hanger for the door handle because my door handle was broke on the door. So I had like a hanger down on the door that you had to pull to open the driver's door. But that car was a piece of shit. Yeah. And my dad still wanted that thing back when I was done with it. And I destroyed that thing.
That's hilarious.
I mean,
anyway.
It worked. You know, made it there.
Yeah, you
that show was crazy.
You got a little action up there. I know you got up on stage and yelled into the mic
with Josh. Yeah, that's dreamy stuff.
Body surfing and.
Yeah, I was in the crowd was basically crowd killing when I didn't really have any business crowd killing at 120 pounds soaking wet. And it was not the crowd for that either. This fat guy in a
it was a weird
came up and snatched me up by my belt waist and my shirt and just chucked me up on top of everybody, and so that's how I ended up on stage. I vividly remember my feet were going first towards the stage, and I forget the main guitar player for Converge, the red heavy guy. Came up to the the Chariot.
Yeah.
But he came up front at the time, and I was like up on the monitor, and whenever I came down, I could feel my feet, like the back of my heels, like snag a string. So I just immediately just like tucked backwards and basically just like landed on my head or whatever. And Josh was nice enough to be like, "Come on, dude." So got to be up there for a second because he was a nice guy. So
I'll never forget that show, man.
Yeah, that was a weird show with all the bands they played with, though. Like, they played with, like, Sky Eats Airplane.
You remember, wasn't there, like, an 80s, like, hair metal-looking band that played, too, or something? Remember, like, there was girls? Oh, no, that was Sky Eats Airplane, where the girl was grabbing the guy.
Hair, was grabbing his dick the whole time.
Underage girls feeling up on
this is, not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was super uncomfortable at that point. I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah, definitely.
This guy is just
I forgot all about that. Yeah, he was.
I wanted to bring it up, but I didn't. Josh went there, so
yeah, I had to, man, because I'll never forget that.
And this is how the Me Too movement happened.
I remember they ended up like canceling their set early or quitting their set early because they were like pissed off because like there was some kind of like issue with between the iPod, the
Yes. Yes.
like an iPod was like 90% of their fucking music anyway.
Right.
Yes.
It's all programmed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
It was
I
silly.
remember them being, it was like a very kind of like a rock
Dicks.
star attitude thing going on there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
they
you
were
guys
one of those
sure,
bands.
you guys still think you're better than you are for a fucking MySpace fan.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They were one of those like pop-up MySpace bands there for, we could probably bunch off a ton of them, but yeah, they were.
I will
one of
say though, the Chariot came and brought that shit afterward.
Oh yeah, come
dude,
on.
that place
Oh, yeah,
was
they did.
fucking nuts.
Dude, they were
The
fucking
only-
that place up. The bass player
They were tearing that place up.
Yeah.
Pulling it down by the bass string, like the bass plug and everything. It's like, Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
The drummer starts just
Yeah.
wrecking the place.
The only band that I ever saw even get close to that was Dillinger. And
Was that when they pushed the stack on the guy?
Yeah, they threw a fucking stack out in the crowd.
That guy sued the shit out of him.
Yeah,
He tried to.
And fucking it was Thursday's farewell tour that didn't end up being their farewell tour back in I guess it was 2010ish, I want to say, at Pops. And Greg got up in the fucking the actual rafters and was hanging upside down and like pulling on the rafters like the lighting rigs and shit. And fucking Ben like threw his guitar up, and Liam is the bassist was at the time, and I think he like took his bass and knocked down his stack. Billy Raymar was playing drums at the time. This is when Chris Penny was in, I believe, still yet in Coheed and Cambria for that brief run, and they were all just going absolutely nuts while Billy just kept playing the drums the whole time. They were just fucking destroyed that fucking place, and I think they got banned from Pops, but Pops is under new like management and shit now, so I'm sure they're probably allowed to come back.
Bands like that don't come around St. Louis anymore.
Not a lot. No, not a lot, unfortunately. But
let's say we missed out on so many good shows.
Better Lovers is coming April 19th to Off Broadway, and I will be there.
Space Cowboy, Grey Haven, and I forget the fourth one, but I really I don't listen to a lot of Grey Haven, but from what I've listened to, I feel like they'd be pretty sick to see live.
I mean, I'm not like the biggest CU Space Cowboy fan personally, although that's not like I dislike what they're doing. Like I kind of somewhat it's kind of like the early From First to Last stuff is what it kind of made me think of initially when I heard it. I know it kind of goes into other Terry's musically that doesn't, but
I don't really know
that stuff.
I don't really know a lot about them. I thought that they were like some kind of like mathcore band or something. From
how I came to them was actually like the 2 Minutes to Late Night covers that they do, like the Hardcore Summers that they do, and they had the guy from well, I'm not sure what that person identifies as, but the lead vocalist from CU Space Cowboy does vocals on what did they cover now on the song that they were on. I cannot remember now for the life of me. No, and I was like thoroughly impressed with the vocal performance. I'm like, I need to check out what band this person's in, and I was like, not that bad. Reminds me of early From First to Last, but then I didn't ever go listen to anything else until I think they put out a new single this year, and I did listen to that, and I was like, it's alright. It's kind of like, I would say like more so the genre that they live in is kind of like the Calistea Boys. I don't know if you're like into them or listen to them, Aaron.
Yeah,
I do like them,
I'm pretty familiar with them. I actually learned from them through the Mathcore Index, page.
Right.
Yeah.
So I caught them. I was like, violin and some chaotic music. It's like all these guys look like they probably run an insurance company together. I'm with it,
Yeah. The first I saw of them was they played some like book place, like a small show. Like this video kind of went viral for what those bands can do virally, I guess. But it was like they were doing a cover of Deftones. But the lead vocalist, like the crowd had taken him and was making him body surf across the top of them in this like small like bookstore. And I was like, holy fuck, man, like that is amazing. Like I need to play shows like this.
Yeah, I really like that guy's vocals.
I do too. Really he can do everything.
Yeah, he sings incredibly well. And he's got great range whenever it comes to all the screaming and hollering stuff. So
they kind of do the melodramatic thing sometimes, like vocally. I think that might turn away some like heavy music fans, but I just like appreciate the talent, even if it's not. I'm not saying like 100% of the time they're playing stuff that I'm like, oh, I love that part, but I find myself impressed with those parts that I may not land with me as much though too. So it keeps me engaged in exchange, and I like them. I was disappointed I missed them. They played off Broadway this year, and that was one of the shows I really wanted to go to that I had to kind of like pick my poison on because I could only go to like a select few shows this year, and yeah, some of them were like really tightly packed in next to each other. And I was fortunate enough to knock out like bucket list bands for me as far as like newer bands that I wanted to see. So this year, I got to see Chat Pile, which was a must for me, and I got to see Portrayal of Guilt, which was another must for me. So I was pretty happy about that, and seeing Portrayal of Guilt like on the Fall of Troy 20th anniversary reunion as well was kind of an odd pairing.
Yeah, I hate that I missed that because that was such a big band for me. I'm so glad they're still doing it. Paul Troy.
Yeah. Which is the original Creepy. Me and Aaron and Ridge snuck out to a show out there. We told our parents we were going to stay the night at Ridge's house, and we drove up to the Creepy Hall and watched.
Got into an accident on the way back, and then stayed in Joey's.
No, that was a different show.
That was the Coheed Cambria at the pageant.
Yeah, it was snowy, wasn't it?
When that happened?
Yeah.
Yep. That was like 2 feet of snow.
I remember when that.
We went in and like they weren't really calling for. They were like, "Oh, it's going to be hazardous conditions when you come out. Maybe like 2 inches of snow." We get out, there's like 18 inches.
Yeah.
It's like fuck. And they weren't doing anything.
I remember the old guy getting out of like the guy that like because the guy for sure drifted into the lane and like flipped the front passenger quarter panel, and like the next thing he's like sliding all over the place and that. We obviously were fortunate enough to stop in the middle of the road. I think we got sideways for a second, and then pretty much all the way.
We did a full 360 and then kind of slid. But like when we did the 360, we were like back in the direction that we needed to be in.
Okay, because I think that I was like laying down in the back at the time or something.
Yes.
Of that nature. Yeah. But like I remember like setting up, and then it was like, oh, here comes this white car, and then but I just remember they had like. It was just like such a cliche, like old person wreck thing. He's like,
yes,
like just so like just in utter confusion and chaos. And it was like, you hit me, and we're just like, no, you like literally drifted into this dude. It's like nobody's fault, really. Like,
right.
Like, and then he like is opening up all these doors for God knows what reason. All these papers are like flying out of his feet, and he like. The one thing he grabs is a fucking trumpet case, like out of the back seat. And it's just like, I don't know what's happening anymore. Like,
the people, man.
He was coming back from a gig, and I think he was drunk.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was because I was like dealing with him and interfacing with him mostly, and he was like trying to blame me for what happened. I'm like, no, man, you drifted into me. And then the police got there, and I heard him like making his case to the police, and I'm like, no, that's not what happened, man. I was like, all you have to do is go back and trace the tracks. The police didn't give a fuck any which way, and they didn't like breathalyze him or anything.
Yeah.
Either.
You just knew that they were probably like knee deep in people in accidents.
They definitely were.
And they're like, just get the fuck on.
Pretty much. They were probably just like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, get your insurances, deal with it later.
Yeah.
We ended up crashing at Joey's house after that. You brought up the Fall of Troy stuff though, and then the Creepy Crawl. That was probably my first like real. I don't say real show, but like not local show, which ended up being Fall of Troy, heavy Lolo, number 12 Looks Like You. I don't remember if there's another band that opened up before them.
Gangastron.
No shit.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Gangastron was there too. I'm pretty sure.
I totally spaced on that, or
because I remember him having the laptop out. That's the only reason I remember that they were there.
Yeah, I was like oblivious for all these years to even who opened because I couldn't recall. Like, but
I think number 12 played first, or Heavy Lolo. The subhead was Gangastron. Gangastron played right before Fall of Troy headline.
Yeah, number 12 played first, then Heavy Lolo played. To Cat Heavy or Fall of Troy again together. And where was that? The Ready Room? Them and Glassjaw?
No, they didn't play that show. Goddamn, who played it? Honestly, I don't think I was familiar with either of the bands that opened.
Rusted Sloth opened. That was
maybe.
the chick guitar player. She raised, because everybody's like, oh, she's so hot, and if you raised your arm, it had like all hair underneath her armpit. You could just hear the whole crowd was like, oh!
Yeah,
and then immediately every guy was like, I don't care, still get it, you know? But
yeah. There was another band that played that show that was funny enough because, well, no, this was the Sayerson show now, so I'm misremembering that. There was a band I know that Devin, who I work with, he had mentioned to me, he's like, oh, why does this band name sound familiar? Because we were like looking up shows that were coming up. I was like, is that not the band that opened for Sayerson? And I don't know why, I just randomly remembered that was the case because I'd never listened to the band before.
Yeah, they were like young guys too, weren't they?
Yeah. And he was like, you know what? I think you might be right. We went back and looked because, modern advances, you're able to Google shit like from this date back to this Sayerson 2016 or 2017 tour, and we looked it up in St. Louis Ready Room, and we looked up the bill, and yep, sure enough, it was the same band. Yeah. Somehow that was in there, and it came out whenever
they were okay.
We were looking at shit.
They weren't really my thing, but I
didn't care for anybody other than Sayerson on the show. I seem to remember that being the case with the Glassjaw too.
Yeah, I swore that you were at that Fall of Troy show, but when they last came through.
I only saw them that first time at Creepy Crawl, and then I just saw them in the spring. That's the only two times I've
never seen them. They're incredible three-piece, though.
Oh, yeah, and they had the original bassist back with them, too.
Oh, the little short blonde hair guy? Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, red mustache. Whenever I seen him, too, he was playing with them. Actually, I want to say Patrick or Nathan Tripp may have went to that one with me, or not. I don't know. I met everybody there, basically.
Right.
It goes. But,
yeah.
That show pretty much ended, like, the first time we seen them together. So it's just like, I don't know if I'm going to go see these guys anymore. It just ended up, their music's great and all that stuff, but obviously, individuals have their own issues, and sometimes that comes out in public settings whenever it's least convenient for everybody else. So,
right.
But it happened to be dude's birthday. The singer guitar player.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was his birthday, and he got pretty wasted prior. Which they had a tour. They had a fill-in drummer for the tour. And about midway through the set, he was suggesting that they change songs around in the set and playing different songs. And you could tell the drummer was like pretty uncomfortable with it. And then the bass player was like, probably shouldn't do that. Like you could hear them, but it was like quiet as like in church. Like in church, dude, it was like so quiet. You could hear everybody talking, and like bass player was like, probably shouldn't do that. He's like, come on, we can fucking do it. I think just like really, he's like, you got this kind of thing. And it was like, no, like let's just play the set. And he's like, there's a bunch of fucking pussies. Like, aren't these guys about their fucking pussies? Like, just talking all this shit. And it was a spectacle for sure. Like they still killed it. Like dude's still such an amazing musician. Such a prodigy.
Things didn't really play out how we wanted them to. Brian, if you're watching or you catch this piece of the programming, this was your surprise. Aaron, surprise. We're going to tell you that he's going to be on the show, so surprise now.
Sunrise, sunrise, motherfucker. Sunrise, motherfucker.
But I appreciate you hopping on here at the last minute, man, and chopping it up with us. And hopefully we entertained the masses still yet for anybody who caught the live feed this evening. So we appreciate you helping out.
Yeah, FYI, Brian, if you're listening, don't think that my only fond memories are of you punching people. Because
a lot of them
I'd say, yeah, they're up there. But I definitely still reminisce on when we were going to be break dancers, or we were going to have a rap group, and messing around with like zip-zaps or making random miniature weapons out of household items and taking them to school and getting in trouble for it. Just all that goofy shit, playing basketball and whatnot. So.
Clowning, being kids,
Yeah.
being friends, having the hangs. Yep. Hello, thank you for calling Spotify for podcasters. This is Antonio. How can I help you?
Hi there, Antonio. This is Dolores Longbottom. I was just calling in to make a complaint about a particular podcast. We're actually called the ATI Podcast, and it's something specific within the ATI Podcast. It's not the ATI Podcast itself. It's a little sub show they have called Adol's End or something like that. It's just like really sacrilegious little podcast number where he gets on there and talks about all these little miniatures that he makes over on Instagram. He posts the pictures up on Instagram, but yeah, it looks like little bleeding penises and pussies with eyes and, bats with giant dildos hanging off of them and, little people hanging on crosses, and it's just not right, Antonio. I just been a good Christian woman my whole life, and I come across this filth on the internet, and I just feel like the good Lord wants me to do something about it.
Okay, ma'am, let me make sure I've got this right. You witnessed some like dildos? Is that what you called them? Dildos?
Yeah, it was like this little bat hanging upside down, and it looked like it had a little dildo hanging off of it or something. It looked like a little purple penis with weird balls or something.
Well, you understand the concept of a podcast is that it's like actually like audio stuff. So like, where are you actually witnessing this at? Like, how do you get the visual?
Oh, well, every time I listen to these guys talk about their floor and filth, they tell me to get on the Instagram and look, and I got on this Edall guy. I think his name's Nodnarb or some fucking weird shit. I don't know. He's talking about putting holes in his body or something, hole boy. Anyway, he always tells me to get on the Instagram and check out his pictures, and I just can't believe my eyes when I get on there and look at all these pictures. It's so sacrilegious. This Brandon guy needs a lot of help. He may be mentally disturbed.
Well, ma'am, I can't speak for what the content is on his Instagram page, and we're just a hosting service for podcasts, so, and we do support and protect the right to free speech, so anything that you're talking about really doesn't fall in those guidelines, and I'm really not sure that I can help you. Maybe report it on Instagram? I'm really at a loss on how to help you, ma'am.
Well, Antonio, you sound like a sweetheart, and I know that you're trying your best, and I think you're a good Christian boy, and you understand, and that's okay, dear, and I will take my complaints to Instagram, but I just wanted to make the good people of Spotify aware what kind of nasty and vile information this guy's putting out on the internet.
Well, we appreciate your call and your concern, ma'am. Again, unfortunately, it's not something in our wheelhouse that I can help you with today. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Well, I haven't had sex in about 23 years, and there's a few cobwebs, so if you're looking to clean me out, I could really use you, Antonio.
Oh, fuck this. I'm quitting this job. This is Barrett from the ATI Podcast. Each week, Josh and I discuss current events, pop culture, music, TV, movies, politics, sports. Nothing is out of bounds. You can also tune in to learn about rising artists, small businesses. Whether it's music, graphic design, filmmaking, or even a brick-and-mortar mom-and-pop shop, we will be spotlighting folks and their endeavors. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Anchor, or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. Just search ATI Podcast. We would like to thank you for your continued support, and as always, please stay safe out there.
Hey, this is Josh from ATI Podcast. For show updates and news about the podcast, follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ATI Podcast 22, on Twitter at podcast_ATI, on Instagram at the ATI Podcast, on TikTok at ATI Podcast. DMs are always welcome. Have a question for the show? You can always email us at atipodcastquestions@gmail.com. Stay safe out there.
Hey guys, this is Jake from Waxing On with RJ.
And this is Rich Jackson with Waxing On with RJ.
And we're here to tell you about our show. We want you guys to catch Waxing On. You can be found exclusively on the ATI Podcast channel. We're going to be talking about a lot of cool artists out there. Support the band, support the artists. Just wanted to say, a lot of the bands that I pick are going to be things like, you're going to find more hooks than a tackle box in there, but my brother Ridge here, we like some of the same things, but sometimes he likes something different, right? Right, Ridge?
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of the hooks in your tackle box, but, some of them aren't for me, but they all look pretty good.
Yeah, so, I think we're going to have a little bit of everything for everybody, and that's what this show's going to be about. And we're going to be supporting, like artists and stuff and like physical media, and we're going to get their names out there, and, we're going to like promote artists and like give them like all your money and everything,
Yeah, like I already spend so much money on vinyl, but I'm going to give them even more.
Yeah, and hey, it doesn't even have to be vinyl, like we're talking about everything. We're talking about tapes, we're talking about CDs, and once I get a few more like Bud Light seltzers in me, I might talk about what I might do with my finger in my...
I'll sit here and watch you while I drink this beer.
Yeah, so like my brother Rich here, you probably like live in like the deathcore type stuff, a little bit more so, and then I like all kinds of music. I like pop punk, and you guys are gonna get a little bit of everything. Like doesn't matter your brand of ice cream, we got it here on this show.
Yeah, that's what's cool here is like I like what I like and he likes what he likes, and like I respect what he likes, but what I like is really cool, but like what he likes is cool too. So we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, and there's people out there that's gonna probably hear some of these bands. Like you probably heard of some of them. Like we love Kiss, right? Like like everybody knows Kiss, but like. Now everybody knows about Code Orange, even though I talk about them on every show. So I'm gonna keep talking about them. You gotta love Code Orange.
Yeah, I mean they're not really my thing, but they're good. I definitely respect them. They're good musicians. Like I listen to them, but yeah.
I mean, you liked them before they were cool to like, though, too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it took once they started getting a few plays.
When they were like Code Orange kids.
Right.
But now like they're too good to be kids.
Right. Yeah, they're not kids.
They've grown up.
They're just like 50 and they need to. Yeah.
So be sure to follow us on Instagram at WaxingRJ, and you guys can see our weekly picks. Now we just put up a few selections from our show, because we just want to give away everything, But you got to really check us out, and we're found exclusively on the ATI Podcast YouTube channel, and you guys can see us there. And yeah, man, thanks for checking us out, and you might like us.
Yeah, and stay tuned, man. We got a lot of cool stuff coming out.